So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Hey, hey. Thank you for the introduction. Just to remind you, we're going live. We're live now. All righty, Josephine, here on live TV. And looking good. All right. So I'm just going to go through the agenda here. Do we have Nicole Peterson, Maxine Disraeli? Mm-hmm. Leroy La Liberty, are you in the house? Not yet. All right. Trevor Lloyd? Not yet. Is he around? He will be. Okay. Okay, those are going to be our speakers here this morning. So, again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this morning here. Um, so, going on with the agenda here, I'd like to call up. Are you guys coming up together? All right. I'm going to call up two ladies. These ladies are from Midwest Family Connections. Nicole Peterson and Maxine Deserly. Robertson, sorry, not Peter. Nicole Robertson, Maxine Deserly Estamic. These will be our first speakers here. We're going to be doing some slideshows here, ladies, or you want to use that cordless mic there? All right, okay.
their feelings. Maybe they're angry or they're upset or, they're taking a fit. Maybe they're having a temper tantrum. Anybody experience a temper tantrum? Sometimes adults still have temper tantrums, right? And so our emotions are just all over the place. We're dysregulated and we're angry, mad, all those kind of things as we all have emotions. But one thing that helps is when we are able to say those emotions, right? I'm angry that this happened, or I'm frustrated. And then you can also tell talk to your child when they're having a fit. I can see you're really angry. You're angry because your brother took the toy away from you, right? And so that helps them to calm down, and it helps them to, help regulate themselves as they're like, okay, yes, you're right, I'm angry, right? Or I'm frustrated, or I'm sad. And like, there's some examples like, when a little child will say, I hate you. And you're like, what? You hate me? A lot of parents get offended at that because they're like, oh, my child hates me. But they're just basically really telling you that they're angry at you. They're angry because you told them to do something, or you took a toy away from them, or you did something that made them angry, but the only way they can express that was, I hate you. But they don't really hate you. They're just angry at you. So being able to, say emotions, or even when I'm happy we're going to town, or I'm happy we went swimming, or, being able to express those kind of emotions help with our children. So emotional regulation is very important, because I didn't understand anything about emotions. That now I can name my emotions. I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or I'm happy, I'm excited, all those kind of things. So it's really good to be able to teach our children emotions. So that helps a lot with behaviors. Which one? Oh, nurturing parenting. Oh, okay, here I go. Next one. Okay, I'm still up. So this one here is our nurturing parenting curriculum. So it helps a lot with it runs from 5 years of age to 11 years of age. So it talks a lot about nurturing, and nurturing is like caring, helping your children, like showing care to your children, and discipline is about showing care to your children. So like one of the things they do is they're like timeouts, like in discipline. You say, okay, I see you're having a hard time with your emotions right now. How about you take it? We're going to put you in a timeout for a while. And that's just to help them regulate again. Or you give them choices. You tell your children, okay, so what would you like to do, and what time would you like to do this? Okay, so like you're wanting to give your children a bath, and you say, oh, okay, what time? Do you want to have it at 7:30, or do you want to have it at 8? So you give them choices, and so that makes them feel good, and so that they want to be more involved in what they're doing. So giving children choices, and like even with their food, their dressing. I don't know about you, but I used to fight with my one daughter. I would get her dressed, and then she would undress because she didn't like what she had on. And then of course you're late for school, you're late for work, and all those kind of things, and she'd be completely undressed because she didn't want to wear that outfit. And so, that's another part where choices come in. I could have gave her a choice. Okay, you pick your outfit, right? How many parents have picked their outfits and the kids doesn't want to wear them, right? Right? So true, right? Yeah. And so you're having that power struggle with the children. And so giving them choices, even with food and stuff like that too. Like, you'll cook a big meal and the kids won't eat it. They wanted chicken nuggets instead of soup, right? Because me now with my grandchildren, they like soup. I grew up eating soup, right? I thought it was a great thing, but Not them. They'd rather have like chicken nuggets or fries or stuff like that. So giving children choices in what they do empowers them to do things. So that's a lot about nurturing parenting. And it talks about how we think about things, because sometimes when we grew up, this is what we learn. So we pass it on to the other children. And so nurturing parenting gives us a lot of challenges in our thinking. Where did this come from? Where did spanking come from? How can we spank our children? Where did that come from? And so for me, I had to really think about a lot of things that happened with my mom. Is they came from a punishment system, right? They were punished for everything they did. They couldn't speak their language. They were punished there. So that was how I grew up. I grew up in a punishment system. And so I had to really, really think about now, like, and I did that with my children, and now I'm a lot better with my grandchildren. Because my son goes, "What's wrong with you, Mom? How come you're treating those kids so nice?" I said, it's so different when you have grandchildren. It's a different story. They're like, well, how come there's socks on the floor? You would never let us have their socks on the floor, and my grandchildren throw their socks on the floor. You never would have let us do that. And so I said, well, it's different now. And plus I learned a lot through nurturing, that I don't have to go to the punishment now, and learn that, spanking is really harmful to children, and it hurts their feelings. And and then we wonder why our children are fighting in school, because they learned how to be aggressive from their parents. And I used to be aggressive parent, so I understand how all my children and all their behaviors come from now. In what did they say, 2020 hindsight? When you look back, then you're like, oh, okay, now I understand what's happening, why my children were behaving this way and stuff like that, is because I was teaching them that. But as parents, we can all learn. Parenting is learning, and it takes time. It's not an easy task to be a parent, but there is good ways to learn how to be a better parent. And I wasn't a good parent. I was an alcoholic for 10 years, so my children saw all that kind of stuff. And then I got a job learning how to parent, teaching how to parent. And so when I was teaching, I was learning also as I went along. So now I'm, with my grandchildren, it's such a different thing. And so I want the next generation to know that our children are loved and our children are cherished. And it's up to us to learn how to do that, to cherish our children, to love. And especially from 0 to 5 years of age, children are they're like sponges. So everything we speak into children at those ages, that's what they really learn. It's in the brain. So everything we speak into the children at 0 to 5 years could last a lifetime. So that's why they gave us early intervention programs, so we're able to go in and help parents with the 0 to 5 years of age. And that's where we used to serve. We used to only serve 0 to 6, but now they changed us now to serve right to 18 years of age, because the needs were still there. And, they thought, well, if we transition them into the school system, then their needs will be all met. But parents were still needing their needs, because, teenage years are very hard too. So.
Thank you, Maxine. I don't even know how to follow that. That was so impassioned. So just to wrap up the section on discipline, recognizing it's hard as a parent to give what you didn't get. So if you didn't grow up in a home where feelings and emotions were talked about, it's hard to do that as a parent. So that's where we can hopefully help, is by coming in and doing some of these parenting curriculums, and just providing some support around what are some ways to positively guide my child's behavior. And so Maxine and I were even talking about the word punishment and how it kind of has a negative tone to it, and trying to think not of it as punishment, but rather, that corrective behavior, or how to positively guide children's behavior. And so trying to be proactive, by using strategies such as praise and encouragement, having those house rules and limits, modeling the behavior that you want to see. And then when your child is misbehaving or acting in a way that's not appropriate, using those positive behavior guidance strategies like timeouts or natural consequences or logical consequences. And if you have questions, like we said, we're here to help with some answers. And so we would welcome any phone calls or questions, referrals, if you're needing help with some of the things that these parenting curriculums can offer. Okay, so we were also going to just talk a little bit about routines. And again, Maxine and I were talking just before the start about, mornings can just be a really hectic time. Has anyone had a morning where you thought it would have been better just to stay in bed because it was just so chaotic trying to get out the door? Yeah, for sure. And so I think that's a common experience across parents, especially when you've got little kids. And like Maxine said, you get them dressed and then they don't like what they're wearing. So they take their clothes off and you're trying to get out the door and they don't understand that you've got to be somewhere in 10 minutes and it takes 9 to get across town. So having routines is a way to provide some structure and a sense of predictability for children and adults. I think even as adults, when we go somewhere, having an agenda and knowing kind of what to expect from the environment really helps us be able to regulate a little bit better. And so when children know what to expect from their environment, they feel safe and secure. And when children feel safe and secure, they're at a place of readiness for learning to happen. And so mornings, like we've already said, can just be a really stressful time for parents and caregivers. So having a morning routine will really help your day begin more smoothly, while also teaching your child the skills to become independent. So as children get used to the routine, they can start to demonstrate some independence. It can also reduce instances of challenging behavior such as tantrums or whining. So some ways to have, or some things to consider when planning out a morning routine is just having a visual schedule. So you can use pictures or objects just to help the child understand what are the steps to the morning routine. So for example, like my youngest, she's 6.5, and she knows that every morning the first thing she does is she wakes up. She usually lays in bed for a few minutes, but then she gets out of bed and she gets dressed. And so she's actually started just like drawing herself pictures of like what to do in the morning. So you could even have your child just draw pictures of what they would do. So get dressed, brush your teeth, have breakfast, and then get ready to go outside. Setting a consistent bedtime is also really helpful. So children can find it hard to wake up in the morning when they're going to bed at different times. And so having a consistent bedtime and trying to stay within, 20 to 30 minutes of it. Planning ahead. So the day before, just having them plan out what they're going to wear. Like Maxine talked about, that offering choice can also be really powerful. So having them pick out their outfit and then getting it laid out the night before, having them pack their lunch or their backpack for school the night before, and then offering reasonable choices. So, first you get dressed, then you can choose if you want cereal or pancakes for breakfast. And then just including bonding time as part of your morning routine. And so this was a really big one in our household. My children are both school age, and every morning, Monday to Friday, since kindergarten, they wake up and they're like, I'm tired. I don't want to get out of bed. They say it in a much more whiny voice than what I'm using. I won't subject you guys to that. But, and so I came across this article that talked about the 9 most important minutes in your day. And so they talk about the 3 minutes when you wake up, the 3 minutes after school, and the 3 minutes before bedtime. And one of the things they talked about in the morning was when your child's saying, I'm tired, just saying, okay, well, let's lay here together and we'll take 3 minutes before we get out of bed just to snuggle and just get ready for our day. And so this was a huge one. We just incorporated it, I think, 2 weeks ago. And already I'm seeing a difference. And so they're not waking up and saying, I'm tired anymore. Instead, they're asking, can we just have that 3 minutes to snuggle? And then we do, and they wake up and they're fine. So if you can find ways to incorporate some bonding time into your morning routine, it could be something that would maybe help it go a little bit more smoothly as well. Okay. And then you can have routines all throughout your day. So like a morning routine, a school routine, like hygiene routine. But we just chose the morning and bedtime routines because they're two of the most popular ones. And so for bedtime, just getting enough sleep. Sleep is just so important for children to grow and develop. And then it also supports positive behavior. So when children aren't getting enough sleep, they tend to become tired and cranky, and then they engage in challenging behavior, right? You can usually tell when your child is tired because of the way that they're behaving. So again, just having that bedtime routine can help everyone feel calm and relaxed. And then it also starts to cue your child that it's time to get ready for sleep, or it cues their body that it's time to get ready for sleep. So some things you can do are just watching for signs of tiredness. So as parents, you are the expert on your child, and you can usually recognize like, okay, yeah, they're starting to get tired. Again, having that visual schedule with either pictures or objects to represent the steps to the routine. So, you know, if we have a bath, we put on our pajamas, we read a story, we tuck you in and we go to bed. And then just having some activities or sounds or objects to help them feel calm and restful in like the hour before bedtime. So it could, you know, giving them a blanket to snuggle up with, doing some quiet activities like looking at books, coloring, puzzles. And then prepare them for the following day by telling them what to expect. So, you know, we're going to go to bed, and in the morning, we'll wake you up early because you have to get ready for daycare, or you have to get ready for school. And then again, just making that bedtime routine an opportunity for some undivided attention. So having some ways to incorporate that bonding. And so, you know, when you're tucking them in, you can give them a snuggle, or, you know, just even asking them about their day. So what was the best part of your day? What were you really excited about today? What are you grateful for? Yeah, I think.
So for me, I had no routines. I was a drill sergeant. Get up, get dressed, let's go. And get our big sock bag out there and throw out socks, and everybody's getting ready and putting on their socks in the morning. So now I raise my grandson, and so I'm trying to get more into routines, and he made out his routine and stuff, but he's slow motion. I told Nicole my grandson's slow motion, so it's like, okay, come on, let's go, we got to get going. And he's a turtle, and so I'm always trying to get on work on time. Usually we're about 5 minutes late, but we still get there. And but it's good for us to have those routines. Like my grandson, we do have a routine now, and yet still sometimes we are still digging through the sock pile because you know, me and laundry is not my friend. As most parents know, right? It's a never-ending chore. Laundry, and you get put away. Sometimes you could get halfway there and not put away, and then everybody's digging through baskets looking for their clothes, right? So yeah, laundry is always a tough task for me, and just getting stuff organized and put away, especially when you have a lot of children. Like I raised my 4 children, so we're just trying to get out the door is a hard task, and it's still a difficult task for me yet, even though I'm raising my grandchild. But we do have a morning routine, even though he does slow down quite a bit. And one of the routines that I did have when my children were growing up, which my son appreciated, at least we did have one routine in there, is when we would take a trip somewhere. So I would say, okay, we're going to go there, we're going to get a room, and we're going to go swimming, or we're going to do this, or we're going to go shopping, and all this kind of stuff. So I would have one thing I did, I could have been what is that called? A trip person that organizes trips. Yeah, so I used to plan our trips, so that was a good thing for me. And then my son, even though he's older, now when we go to the city, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to go to the mall, and we're going to go shop, and then we're going to go have supper, and then afterward we're going to stay at the hotel and go swimming. So that helps, even when you're taking your kids grocery shopping, that's another tough one, right? Grocery shopping, because your kids want everything, right? There's so much stuff in the stores. You just want everything. I want everything too, but I can't have everything I want. but even planning out the grocery trip. Okay, we're going to go to a grocery store, and this is what you're going to get for a treat if you're well behaved. You're going to have a bag of chips. And so, or you could even give them a choice. What do you want for a treat? And that works a lot. That helped me a lot with my grandson. Okay, we're going to go to the co-op store. We're going to stop at the gas station. You can have 3 things. Pick what you want to have before we go on a trip. Instead of, because usually kids want everything, right? Everything off the shelf. Like, so you'll have this great big bill on your before you even leave town. But that helped a lot, like giving those choices there on a road trip, giving them, letting them know, okay, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to go do this, do that, do this. And so they have an idea what's going on, and also giving them a choice for what they would like to have when they go grocery shopping or shopping in the store.
Thank you, Maxine. That pretty much concludes the information that we were sharing. Just wondering, are there any questions or anything anyone's wondering? If you don't have any today, that's fine. If something comes up, like I said, feel free to call us at the office and ask for either myself or Maxine. Did you have a question? No? Okay. Well, thank you for listening to us and for having us out here.
Yep, that's good. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much again. If you do have any questions for the ladies, they'll be here. You guys hanging around for the day this morning? This morning, they'll be here this morning. And like I said, these ladies are from Midwest Family Connections. Where exactly is that? Lloydminster? In Lloyd, okay. Are you guys a referral, or is your door open for anybody? All right, they're from Lloydminster, so, but like I said, if you have any questions, they'll be right there. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. All right, the next presenter I'm going to be calling up, I do have a little bio on her. So, Robin, are you here? All right. So, Robin McDonald Goforth is from Onion Lake Cree Nation. She is the oldest daughter of Audrey and granddaughter of late Edna and Ivan McDonald. She resides in Regina with her 4 children and 3 grandchildren. Robin is a teacher by trade, but currently is working towards her Master's of Indigenous Language Education. So, welcome to you, Tiamak. Here is Robin McDonald.
Yep. Okay. Good morning. I know some of you, but not a lot of you. I left Onion Lake about like in the 90s, long time ago. Really dating myself. So I wrote kind of a little bit of a timeline. I did this last year. I want to say thanks for inviting me out. Is this okay? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Should I go? Yeah? Okay, so I did this last year. I was invited to talk a little bit about my experience with parenting a child with a disability. So I guess I'll start right from the start. And you know what? I'm going to take these off so that it's a little bit easier for me to speak. Just a little nervous. Okay, so let's see. Where do I start? Like I said, in the introduction, my mom's Audrey. I was born in Paradise Hill, actually, and I was raised here in Onion Lake with my grandparents. I lived with my grandparents and back and forth with my mom. So in the early 90s, I met my now ex-husband, who is from Pipixies. That's in Treaty 4 territory. So what I ended up doing was relocating. In the 90s, went to Regina, actually, where I currently still live. We had 4 babies. 2 daughters and 2 sons. My last baby, he actually has something called cerebral palsy. What cerebral palsy is like it's a brain injury. It's not anything to do with his body. So if he had not had that brain injury, he would be fine. Like his body works just fine. It's like a connection inside of his brain. This is the way that I explain it to people. So it's a connection inside of his brain where I can where I can tell my body, okay, I want to move my hand and I want to pick up my phone. It's harder for his brain to transfer that message. So cerebral palsy is actually a brain injury. So he was my last pregnancy. I was in my early 30s. I believe I had him when I was 31. So I thought I knew, about pregnancy. I already had 4 and I carried to term 4 times actually. So I thought I was okay. I thought I knew my stuff. And so I didn't, I actually ended up not having an oncologist until later on because I was so confident. Like I thought I knew what I was doing. I was doing all the right things. I was eating everything. I was taking all the, whatever it was, the multivitamins, and I was healthy. I exercised and all that kind of stuff. And so I ended up waiting until a little later to go and see an oncologist. And I think I was I was in my second trimester. I remember I was in my second trimester. I was about 6 months along, and I finally went for an ultrasound. And what the doctor found at that time was he found a shadow. He said it was a shadow on Cole's heart, my baby's heart, my youngest. And so he told me that it looks like Down syndrome. That's what he told me right away. So I didn't know anything about growing up on the reserve. I never saw anybody with a disability. So, and I never knew anybody so I didn't have any experience at all. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. I was scared right away. And so this doctor, he was an older male doctor and non-Indigenous. And he was telling me, well, there's only 2 things you can do. He told me at that time. He told me you can have a late-term abortion, or you can look now and see if you can find a home for your baby to go and to put him in a home. And neither of those things were okay with me. I didn't agree at that time. I didn't want to have an abortion. And I didn't want to put my baby in a home because pregnancy for me was not an easy thing. So all 4 times that I was pregnant, it was not a fun time. The only thing that kept me excited and kept me going about thinking about what's going to come in 9 months is a baby, right? So I was thinking, why am I going to, give my baby away? That I'm working really hard for this baby. I want this baby. So neither of those things were okay with me. So what I ended up doing was I ended up looking right away for a different doctor, somebody who was Indigenous, because Indigenous, it makes a difference. So as Indigenous people, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this, as Indigenous people, we all have kind of congruent ideas or values, and one of those things is we take care of our people is what we do. It's really a community-based ideology. So because of that, I wanted somebody who was Indigenous. I wanted somebody who was Indigenous to their own country or Indigenous to ours. And so I ended up finding somebody. That was a lot easier after that. He kind of, it wasn't an option after that. After we did another ultrasound, and it was kind of like the same talk, but not anywhere near, it wasn't as scary, not nearly as scary. And so I was okay with the second doctor. I was feeling like, okay, well, you know what, Down syndrome, I've heard of it, but I didn't really know anything about it. So the first thing I did was I started I just looked up everything I could about Down syndrome. I needed to know everything. I needed to know, okay, what's going to happen then? What's this little baby's life going to look like? What are some of the things that I need to do? What are some of the things that we need to have in place to have a baby at home with a disability? And it turned out to be a lot. But you know what? I was actually doing the wrong. I was actually researching the wrong thing. So what? Okay, this is kind of weird because in my last trimester, I was like in my 9th month actually. It was winter time, and we were living in a kind of a place that's kind of up, like it had the sidewalk was like kind of had a hill, and then so I was coming up the hill. My kids were already up. I have my 3 babies were already up, and they were standing on the steps on the porch. So I was coming up, and I just so happened to slip. And when I slipped, I fell like kind of like on all fours like that on the lawn. And I'm not sure if this has anything to do with it, but what ended up happening was I ended up going into labor early. And because it was my 4th baby, I knew that it was different. I knew that this didn't feel like labor. It was different. It was like a lot more painful than regular labor, that's for sure. And it was hard, like it was just hard from the onset. And so at the time, my ex-husband was working out in Pepixis, and he was contracting. He was running water or something there. So I tried calling. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. No, I think it started at like 4 in the morning. I tried calling, and he was already out. And so what I ended up having to do, because it was too hard, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't bear the pain anymore. It was coming on 6 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't do it anymore. I was there by myself with my 3 babies at the time. Everybody was here back home. I couldn't what am I going to do? Call my mom and she's going to make it up and like magically make it up in half an hour. Like that's not going to cut it. So I ended up calling my mother-in-law and asking her to come to the house to give me a hand, because I knew it was different. I knew something was going on. Even before then, I had signs. Like I had, I don't know, dreams. I'd see signs in dreams. I knew that Cole was going to be my last baby. And I knew that Cole was going to be a baby for a really, really long time. And I thought, well, actually, I knew that Cole was going to be a baby for a really long time. And I thought, because I knew this, I thought what it meant originally was that it was because he was going to be my last baby. Because the baby of the family is going to be the baby like for forever, right? Like my little sister, she's 30, she's still the baby. I still consider her the baby. So when I introduce her, I say she's my baby sister. And so I thought it was that. But I didn't realize now, like what you're saying, hindsight is always something, right? I realize now that why I was feeling these things and why I was knowing these things or seeing them in dreams. It was because my baby is actually, he's quadriplegic. These things and why I was knowing, technically, he is like a baby. Like I feed him, I change him, I bathe him, I brush his teeth, I comb his hair, anything that he needs, even little things like if he accidentally kicks the covers off, it's got to be me to put the covers back on him. Otherwise, he's going to be cold. He can't physically grab, do things for himself, things like that. So this is another thing too. When we went to the hospital, so my mother-in-law came, and when she got there, I called the ambulance. I said, something's wrong. Something's totally different. This is not right. I need to go now. So they came and got me and no, just by myself, because my ex-husband wasn't here yet. Wasn't at home in Regina yet. And so I ended up going by myself. And I remember being on the stretcher, and they wheeled me into emergency. And I don't know. I heard this voice. So what this voice said to me, well, it was like deja vu. Do you know what that is? Deja vu. It's like when you're experiencing something and you've experienced this before, or you've been there before. Something about this experience is really it's not new to you. You've been there before, and so the nurse who was in there, it was like a spiel in my mind, and so the nurse said something. And this voice, and I don't know if it was me or I don't know if it was somebody else or I don't know. Anyway, I heard, if you don't say something different, then you're both going to die. That's what I heard. Really honest, I felt it and I believed it. And so I knew what I was supposed to say. So intentionally, I said something different, and I can't even remember. It was something so minuscule. It was something so like it didn't even really. It was just something really, really tiny, I remember. But I changed it. I made it different because I didn't want to, I have 3 little ones at home. I have this little one. And so I listened to my intuition. And I believe that's because of being Indigenous, part of my indigeneity and believing, otherworldly things, believing other realms, other realities and things like that. So I did it. I changed it. Some people might not think that's superstitious, but for me it was a big thing. And so I changed it. And then what ended up happening was after I was out for like a couple of days, I had lost so much blood. I didn't even know. My baby, when they brought a picture of him, the first picture that I ever saw of him was when I came to after the emergency C-section. Was his hair was just, it was just all full of blood. His hair was full of blood. His eyes, his mouth, his nose, everything. He was just like full of blood. And that really scared me because I didn't know yet at the time. Like the doctors or the nurses gave me no warning at all. They just came in, this is your baby. So that was really scary coming to. And what ended up happening was I had ruptured, my placenta ruptured. So my uterus, where the baby was in, kind of tore off the wall. And I had a lot of internal bleeding. Because of that bleeding, the blood went into where he was. And he literally ended up drowning in my blood, was what happened. And that's what caused the brain damage, the cerebral palsy. That's what caused the brain damage. So had I not, and I'm not sure still to this day if it was because I fell or if it was just he was supposed to come to me in this way. I'm not sure. So having figured this out, having had the news and all that kind of stuff, when I was in the hospital, I felt like I felt terrible the whole time that I was in there for. I was in there for a week and a half, I believe, and the nurses didn't really help. Probably because I was Indigenous. I remember them treating me. They were not nice. Because I believe it was because I was Indigenous. Now, thinking back, I had my sons, or my last son, and that next day, or not that same day. So my youngest daughter and my oldest son have the same birthday. I went in that morning and I had my son, and I was at home that afternoon to celebrate my daughter's birthday. So I'm normally like, I was a strong woman. Like I could just go to the hospital and have a baby and come home and carry on with life. But this time it was different. I was in there for a week and a half, but this was actually my first C-section. So I thought this might have had something to do with it also. And after they kept trying to get me up, and they kept trying to get me walking in the hallways and telling me, you got to do this. You can't be lazy. You can't just be laying around and taking they thought I was liking the morphine is what it was. So after a few days of that and literally not being able to walk up and down the hall, like I felt bad. I felt like really, really bad. It was like ridiculous. I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to the washroom by myself. I needed help. I had really shaky legs all the time. And then finally, they tested my blood and they realized that I had been surviving on very little blood for the week. And the doctor was really actually surprised that I had been able to do what I had done. Like he said, it was medically impossible. So I ended up getting, I think it was 3 or 4 transfusions that day, and I felt so much better. It was like night and day. I felt so much better. And so I was able to leave. But now my baby couldn't leave. He was in NICU. He was in there for a month, a full month before he was able to come out. Meanwhile, while this was happening, my husband went to a ceremony right away that same day after he found out what was happening with us. So he went to sweat right away. They had a sweat for my baby. And in the sweat, one of the things that he was told to do was buy a white cloth, bring it to the NICU, and put it under my baby's head on the right side, I believe it was. So this is what they told, the grandfathers told them to do this in ceremony. My babies grew up around powwow. They're all dancers. They're all like, we raised them in powwow and ceremony pretty much. And so when he came to the hospital, they allowed him to do that right away. They allowed him to smudge my baby. He even got to see him before I did, actually, because I was still like, I couldn't even make it to the NICU. The nurses had told me, if you can't get yourself to the NICU, then you can't see your baby. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, why can't you just take me there? Because they thought I was wanting the morphine. So that's another, like, altogether another story. But so after he did that, my mom brought my 2 sisters, my younger sisters, Shanine and Darcy. She brought them to Regina so that they could help me to look after my babies that were at home. Help me to kind of recuperate, because again, it was a C-section, so it was a little bit different. It was a lot different, actually. So they were a lot of help. And meanwhile, I was trying to look after my home. I was trying to look after my babies at home. And then I had to go back to the hospital because I couldn't leave my baby there. My little baby was still at the hospital. So it lasted about a month. I'm going to say a month and a half around there before I finally was able to bring him home. After I brought him home, it was a little bit easier, but still really, really different, because I knew that there was something different. I'm not sure when there's small babies, you can't really tell, right? Because they're just like, they lay and they sleep and they eat and they look at you and then stuff like that. So you couldn't really tell right away. It was maybe around when he was about 6 months old that I started seeing signs that something was up, something was different. And so I started asking his doctor at the time, well, still his doctor, Dr. Salukdar, he's a pediatrician in Regina. I started asking him, could there be something? Because there's something different about my baby. And he said that I needed to take him to Wascana for something called a clinic. So I ended up taking him to Wascana Rehab Center in Regina. When he was about 6 months old. My first clue was that he couldn't roll. Like he could just roll from side to side like this. He couldn't roll all the way over onto his tummy. So he wasn't getting tummy time because it was uncomfortable for him, I could tell. So I never pushed it. So after figuring this out or seeing this for myself, he couldn't sit up yet at that time either. So I took him to Wascana for his first appointment. He was about 6 months old. He wasn't diagnosed until he was about 8 months old. And it turned out to be cerebral palsy. So this was something new to me. I had to figure out, okay, what is this now? So I started looking into this disability and learning as much as I could about this one. Had to switch it up, had to learn all kinds of different new stuff. And the thing about Cole was that he was really always, and still is to this day, he's always like really determined. If he can't do something in the way that you and I do it, he'll figure out a different way to do it. But he's never, he's always really, I don't know, he's got such an attitude of gratitude. He's always really grateful. He always tries really hard. And since he was a baby, and he's always really happy, just really, really happy all the time. I don't know how that's humanly possible, but he does it. So after his diagnosis, after I started learning about what it was, after his diagnosis, after I started learning about what it was, the doctor had told me that he didn't know if his brain was affected also. Well, this is like what I said earlier. This is a brain damage, but there's different forms or types of cerebral palsy and mental. He wasn't mentally affected, but at the beginning we didn't know that. We didn't know if he was mentally handicapped as well as physically handicapped, because he was just a little guy, right? He used to have this little walker, his first walker. It was called a pony walker. So what it is just like a little, like literally like a little tiny bike kind of a thing, and it had little bars like this for him to kind of sit in, and it had a pommel in the middle. He was maybe, how old was he when he had this? I think maybe he was like 2. He was already coming up. Excuse me. And one of the ways that the doctor had told me, if he can follow simple instructions, simple directions, then maybe we can put him into some extra programming. Because around that time already, I could tell that he was trying to communicate with me, because he would grunt, or he would point, or he would. So I knew that there was something there. I knew he was trying his best to communicate with me. Meanwhile, beforehand, I didn't mention this earlier, the doctor that said that he could, when that released him from NICU, he told me at that time that he would most likely need a metal rod placed in his back. And at the Wascana, when I went to a clinic with him, me all these things that he would probably need, he would probably end up having to have, because of this cerebral palsy, and because it was so severe. Like he's got the most severe form of cerebral palsy. And so at the house, we were at the old house still. This was not a wheelchair accessible house yet, because I was able to lift him and carry him and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't need we didn't need ramps and things like that yet. So at that time, he was in his pony walker, and I thought I would try something. I was laying on the couch in the living room, and he was kind of, walking around in front of me and telling me stuff, grunting and telling me stuff. And I asked him, baby, can you go to the bathroom for me and get me some Kleenex? And I didn't think anything of it. I was trying to not make it, a big deal. So I was kind of like trying to do my own thing and trying to not make him feel like, I wasn't trying to make it a big deal, is what it was. Although in my heart, it was a really big deal. I was really nervous, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So I asked him, baby, can you go to the bathroom and get me some Kleenex, please? And so he was looking at me for a while, and I didn't even look at him. I was just watching TV. And then all of a sudden he turns around in his little pony walker, and it was a tight squeeze. We have these houses in Regina. They're called wartime houses. They're like so tiny. So I heard him going all the way down, banging all the way down the hallway. I heard him banging around, he got into the bathroom. And then I heard him turning around. It just took a while, because his pony walker, and it's such a small space. And so he comes all the way banging back down the hallway, comes to where I am, and he's tight. So his form of cerebral palsy, he's got his muscles are really tight. So he comes to me, and he's got his little hand out like this. So I had to pry open his little hand, and there was a tiniest bit of Kleenex in there. Just a tiny, tiny bit of Kleenex. I was so happy. So I knew, because he could follow that instruction, I knew that. So I was so happy. I called Wascana right away, and I told them what happened. I told them the good news. So they were able to start him in programming. One of the first programs, one of the first people that came to the house at that time, her name was Carmela Ottenbright. I'll never forget her because she was so kind, like really, really kind. And her idea was one of the ways that we could get him to communicate was having like little pictures and then putting them on like a tray. And then he could point to the picture, and then I could figure out what he wanted from there. We tried this for, I don't know, a while, but at the same time he was still grunting, like he would grunt and he would point. And I knew he wanted, like I knew he could communicate. I hoped, actually. I didn't know at the time, but I had hoped that he would be able to communicate on his own. So I asked Carmela, how can we strengthen up his, because lung capacity, you need lung capacity to be able to speak. You can't, if you have no air, no breath in your lungs, it's hard to, carry out a sentence or a word. So what I ended up doing was Carmel and I actually figured out exercises that he could do. So one of the ones that he could do to build his lung capacity, build his lung strength, is blowing bubbles. So we started doing that. I started making him blow bubbles, or blowing a piece of Kleenex. Like I would hold the Kleenex up like this and I would blow it. Or even for the length of like how long you can breathe. So I'd put his little hand under my throat here, my neck. Are we? Yeah. Oh. So I'd put my hand under his neck, and I'd make, or I put his hand under my neck, and I would try and make a long, long sound. And then I would do his neck, and then he would try too. So I knew that there was something. I knew that he was building his lung capacity. I knew that he would be able to eventually, communicate. So the doctors at that time at the clinic actually had said that he's not going to be able to communicate. He's not going to be able to communicate. He can't even, he doesn't have the lung capacity to do that. He's aspirating. That was another problem. What aspirating is accidentally taking your drinks or your food down the wrong pipe. They had wanted him to have just a tube fed, and they wanted me to okay that. But at the time, going back to NICU, I knew that because he could, like I tried breastfeeding him. They told me not to, they discouraged it because they said it was too hard for him. He would lose, I can't remember what it's called, something about will to survive or something like that. Will to thrive or something like that. I can't remember what they called it. But anyway, they didn't want him to not want to, it was too hard to eat is basically what they were saying. It would be too hard to eat and don't do that. So, but I was sneaky doing it because I knew there was a connection there. When we were alone, I would, sit with him, and I would open my gown and we would just sit together because we needed that connection. We needed that bonding time because he was in NICU and I was away down the hall. So I said no. I said no to the feeding tube right away. And I said no to the metal rod. I actually said no to a lot of things because I knew that I knew there was ceremony. I knew there was something else that was better for us, better suited for us because we're not, we're Indigenous, we're Cree. So I knew that we have our own ways of doing things. We have our own ways of believing, and that are not superstition. not even close. So I kept saying no. And you know what? To this day, he's 16 years old. He's going to be 17 in February. He's not had one surgery. That all these surgeries that they're like, there was tendon clippings because of his tightness. There was the metal rod. There was so much. There was so much. And that was another scary time too, I remember. But we ended up going to a ceremony all the time. We kept turning to ceremony all the time. And that was so much easier, so much better, because can you imagine? Like, it's frustrating. I would imagine it's so frustrating. And now that he can communicate now. He tells me how it is frustrating for him to not have control, of his body. So being that the way that it is, I couldn't imagine him having to have surgery upon surgery and deal with that also. And on top of that, being so happy, like he's so happy all the time. He's so happy. All right, so going back to Carmel, at that time, because I knew he was building lung capacity, I ended up my oldest son at the time, he was about 3 and 3, 4, something like that. And he knew what his brother wanted with the grunts. And yeah, I knew too. I knew what his brother wanted when he would grunt and point. And my little guy, Lane, he would tell me, Mom, you're just being mean. Don't be mean. Because I would tell Cole, I don't know what you want, honey. You have to use your words. And I would say that all the time to him. I don't know what you need. You have to use your words. And I knew what he needed. But I wanted to push him. And I wanted him to be able to have that, at least the ability to communicate, because he couldn't do so many other things that we all take for granted. I needed him to be able to do that, because I thought in the future, he could do things like make friends, talk about his feelings. That's a big one. I needed him to be able to communicate so that he could tell me, if not me, then somebody else, a mentor or his siblings or somebody, what was going on, because this is a big, when he speaks about it now, and I'm glad I did at the time, because when he speaks about it now, he says it's a lot to take. It's a lot on his emotional and mental health, to not be able to, get up and brush his teeth, or if he's hungry, to get up and go to the kitchen and get a snack, or, little things like that, little things that we take for granted every day. I remember one time when we were in Yorkton, we're at Painted Hand, I think that's Painted Hand Powwow. Is that Yorkton? Anyway, we were in Yorkton at the powwow, and we went I wasn't dancing at the time, so we were just kind of sitting and watching. And it was Grand Entry, I think, was going on. And I asked him, do you want to go to Tim's? Let's go get a coffee. So we walked down the block and a half or whatever it is. We walked down to Tim's to go get a coffee. And when we were there, we walked in, and there was these 2 little girls standing with their parent or their caregiver or whatever it was at the till. And when we walked in, he had told me at the time, I want that. And so I looked over at these little girls, and one of them had like a blow-up horse, the kind of ridiculous $30 blow-up horses you have to buy at the powwow for the kids. She had one of those, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? When we go back to the powwow, we'll find one for you. And he said, no, Mom. And I said, what do you mean then, honey? Maybe it was like what she was ordering at Tim's or whatever. And he said, no, Mom, I want to walk. So at that time, he was still pretty small, and already it was weighing heavy on him. I need a minute. That always hurts my heart. So it was after that time we decided it was time to take him to another ceremony, for his mental health and also for his physical health. So we ended up having my ex-husband at the time ended up having somebody come to have a pipe ceremony in my living room at our new place, which we had recently moved into because we needed a ramp. He got a wheelchair. Before that, he was riding in strollers. So we got the wheelchair accessible place. That was a hard thing to do because it was so hard to find. It's really ridiculous to find housing with wheelchair accessibility. It has a ramp. It has wider doors. It doesn't have wheelchair or ceiling tracking. It doesn't have other little things like that are important, but at least it has a ramp. It has a bathtub on a pedestal, which is really helpful for me because if the bathtub was on the ground, it would be harder for me to put him in and lift him out. I still have to, like, I bathe him. So I'm getting older. He's getting older. So it's a lot easier for me to use the bathtub on a pedestal than it would if it was on the ground. So we had the pipe ceremony in the living room. The week after that, was it a week after? It was really quite. It wasn't that long. It wasn't that long, and then they came back. We had a Black Lodge ceremony right outside of the city there in Regina. During that ceremony, he was named. Mr. Napel came into the ceremony and he named him. I said, what I needed to say in there. I tried my best to speak on his behalf. And it was the most beautiful thing. It was not like there was not too many people in there. But my auntie Donna came. She was sitting next to me. And there was maybe another row of ladies sitting behind us. And it was just her and I here. And we had been practicing my son up, my ex-husband and I, we'd been practicing my son up. We'd go in the bedroom and we'd close make it really dark in there. And then my husband would sing and he would have his rattle and like trying to make it, because one of the things about cerebral palsy is that they startle really easily at certain pitches and sounds. And it seems like it hurts. It's not like a regular, like just, I'm just scared of that. No, I think it's like a pitch or something that physically hurts him. So we had to practice up for that. And it was the sound of that smaller hand drum and rattles. And so after he was kind of a little bit getting used to it. And then we went into ceremony. The rattle that he had been practicing with, it was sitting next to me on the ground right here because he wanted to bring it in. So I said, okay, we'll bring it in. So I was sitting cross-legged. I put him in my laps here and I kind of I pulled a blanket up because I didn't want to, I thought if he's going to be scared, then I'll just kind of make a little cocoon and kind of trying to make it a little bit easier for him. And anyway, when we were in that ceremony, when the ceremony started, his rattle was dancing next to me on the ground. And when I said my piece, I started crying. And then right away, the singer started singing. And behind me, I could hear so many women crying. And I thought that was so cool because, that's how many women that were in that ceremony helping him and crying for him and crying for me. And so I felt really good. I felt really, really good. I felt really optimistic after that, like something could happen. Because before that, in a previous ceremony, a woman had just a mini ceremony downstairs at Zapan's house on Pepixis. And she was able to take the curvature from his back at that time. So it wasn't, by that time, he already didn't need that metal rod put in there. And then this next ceremony that we had, he was actually able to start sitting up and crab crawling. I don't know if you know what that is, but he would just kind of sit on the ground. His legs were out like this. and then he was able to move from side to side. So he was able to get around a little bit. And so I really believe that was because of the ceremony and the power of prayer and being Indigenous and having these other avenues to choose and to go to instead of hospitals. And not that they're bad, but I guess you'd gauge that on your own as a parent and based on your own personal beliefs, right? So I'm not saying don't listen to the doctors, or I'm not saying if they think that your baby should have medication or whatever, don't say no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, remember who you are, remember where you came from. And we have our own ways too that are just as powerful and sometimes even more so. Every time I take him back to Wascana, the doctors would be like, this is not supposed to happen. And they couldn't even, like, even me, I didn't have an explanation for it. I didn't need one though. I knew that I was doing the right thing, and I knew that I just needed to have gratitude and be grateful and thankful for these things that were happening. I need to look back at my timeline now because I can't remember where I was. So he was diagnosed. He was beginning to, and now he can communicate really well. He just has a little trouble with enunciation. But if you get to know him, like if you're around him a lot, you know what he's saying. I know what he's saying most of the time now, unless he's really tired. If he's really tired, then it takes me a little while to figure out also what he's trying to say. But his siblings and I, his dad, we can all understand him, and other people who are close to him can understand him too. There's other things that he can use, like say for instance, so Cole is 16 now. He's technically supposed to be in high school. One of the problems that I'm having for finding a high school for him right now in Regina, and the main reason why we're still in Regina is because there's supposed to be all these great supports for him there. But I find that being that we need them, I find that it's not as great as they claim it is to be in the city. He is not, like I mentioned before, he's not mentally handicapped. So he can do things like, he's got a lot of friends. He plays Xbox with his elbow. I don't know how he does it, but he's like really, really good. Like he's like victories on Fortnite and all that kind of stuff. So he's really good. He makes a lot of friends easily, as long as people are not nervous about him and him. I guess the biggest thing is that when people see him, and I'm not sure if it's shocking to see somebody in a wheelchair because I'm used to it. But people do tend to stare at him. Like I had asked him if he wanted to come with me. Do you want to come with me and come and see what I have to say? And he said no, because that's usually what happens is people usually will stare at him and not talk to him, and it'll be super awkward. I don't know if it's more awkward for other people or for him. I'm going to say for him because, we should know better. So one of the reasons why I'm having a really difficult time to get him into a program is because everybody kind of puts them all in one little box. So if you have a physical disability, then you obviously have a mental disability too. So you can't go to university. You can't go to high school. You can't go to, you can't aspire to have a life further down the road. He's got big aspirations. Like I mentioned, he likes Xbox. He likes games. He likes music. He wants to produce. He wants to he's got dreams. He doesn't want to live with his mom his whole life. Although I tease him that, okay, you go ahead and you'll move out and I'll come stay in a tent outside your house, but I'm not going to. Maybe. I tease him about things like that. So that's one of the problems that we're having in Regina right now, is that all they have is FIAP rooms. There's no really, it's not open for him to be able to go to school and, you know, have an aide or have these disabilities and still be able to participate, you know, with his peers. He's supposed to be in grade 10. There's difficulty also with transportation, although like I'll still take him. I'll take him, but after grade 8 at city schools, he was in Regina Public School all this time. After grade 8 at city schools, you, I guess, just are not supposed to have, you know, cerebral palsy anymore and still be able to do the work. I don't know. So this is one of the problems that we're having. So I eventually found, and I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on word from the principal there, but I'm talking to the principal. I'm talking to the learning resource teacher there. And we're trying to set up an area where he can be comfortable to have like changes and things like that. He can be comfortable to eat meals. He can be comfortable to, and then he's going to need a different bell schedule as well, because if you don't know, city schools, when the bell rings, the high schools, especially when the bell rings, the hallways are just like filled with people, and you have like a matter of minutes. I think they give you like 3 to 5 minutes for classroom change. So he would need, you know, a little bit extra time, or else a different bell schedule, because if he comes out with his wheelchair, he's going to be crashing into people. Although he's a really good driver, he uses his electric wheelchair primarily for school, for that independence. The school that we chose, the school that we found, does have an elevator, because it's like 3 floors, the main floor, and then there's upstairs, and then there's a basement. He would need that to be able to, you know, get up and down, because his electric wheelchair it's not light. It's like 250 pounds or something like that. It's pretty heavy. And then other places too, like they don't have that accessibility that you'd think that they would. These are supposed to be cities, you know, but half the time we can't get in and out of places. That was a big thing too for powwows, like indoor powwows, having accessibility, being able to go up, because usually we have to sit up way up in where the wheelchair sections are, which is like way out at the top all the time. And then being that we were all dancers, we had to either leave Cole up there by himself, which is ridiculous. No one's going to do that, or carry his wheelchair down. But eventually, over the years, we started just asking security, or knowing somebody from that powwow committee, and letting them know ahead of time that we were going to be there, so that they'd make it a little bit easier for us, and have, like, you know, access to a key for the elevator. So there's things like that you can do. Like if you're needing help in that way, just reaching out and asking a lot of the times is it'll be really beneficial for you to do that. Let's see what else. Because a lot of the time people don't know. And I guess that's the main reason why I had agreed to come back and do this, because like I said earlier, I didn't know any of these things. I didn't have these experiences. I didn't have anybody I could turn to and talk to and say, you know, what do I do when this happens? Or what do I do when, and I think Cole really needs that too, as a mentor, somebody he can talk to, and somebody that he can share, you know, things with, because as much as I love him, as much as I wish I could, you know, take it away, I can't. All I can do is support him and love him as much as I can, and try to make things easier for him. But there's some things, keeping in mind that he's a teenage boy, there's some things that he can't tell me. And I wish for that reason he had more people in his life more people that were there, be willing to be there to mentor him, and to be willing to, think outside of the box of normal. What is normal? Like, we have this conversation all the time at home. What is normal? Who's normal? Whose idea of normal? It's not even a thing, really. Like, who decided what normal is? Who decided that? And we should just throw that out, because it's just a concept, right? It's just a concept. And then being normal or different, putting yourself in a box, is basically pretty much what it is. So a lot of one of the things too I should mention is that one of the biggest challenges I had after Cole was diagnosed was that the financial bit. A lot of people who have children with disabilities have to choose. And I'm not saying only people with disabilities. I mean, parents with disabilities. Lots of parents have to choose if you're going to go to work or if you're going to look after your baby, right? But there's a really a stigmatism there. It's harder, I guess, outside perception or how people view you. If, say, if, for instance, I did. In my case, yes, I did. I found out that my baby had a disability. And then it was harder for me to choose to put my baby in daycare, because for lots of reasons. I think primarily the main reason was because I knew he couldn't defend himself. I knew at that time he couldn't come back and tell me if somebody was being mean to him. It was more of a protection thing for me. And I needed to be able to protect him all the time. And I knew that he's harder, because of not being able to do the things that other kids his age can do. I knew he would be harder for other people to keep. So in order to keep him safe, I had to find other ways of providing for my family. I knew I had to find other ways of being able to look after my kids and be home and look after, finances. I still had bills. I still had rent. I still had, groceries, all that kind of stuff that comes with being a parent. So what I ended up doing was I ended up looking online. I found something called MacTech, I remember at the time, but I had to go through student loans. So I ended up being able to take a year after my mat leave was up. I think they gave me an additional time because I went to ask for see if I could get an additional amount of time, because it was a different kind of a scenario, right? A different situation. And they did end up giving me a little bit more time. But of course that ran out, and there was still, I still had to make this choice. And I knew already at that time that I'm going to have to stay home. There's no other, it's not an option in order to be able to protect him. So I ended up doing something called MacTech. I did a couple of certificates through MacTech. After that, I was really lucky, though, that I had a skill set to fall back on. I sew, I bead. Besides that, we were dancing. Excuse me. So after the certifications that I had to do, I went ahead and I started really just sewing for people other than my family. I was sewing and beading already for my family because we were dancers, right? So it was easier for me. It was less money for me to be able to, I just learned how to make all this stuff on my own. So I started doing that. I started taking orders for other people. That was able to, with that, and still I use that. That's my side hustle. Actually, it supports my family. The only problem is that I never get any breaks, because it's like you're only as successful as much as you're willing to work, and it seems like I'm always working. So that's a problem, but you cope. So the financial support, I kind of touched on that. What Cole could have used, I kind of touched on that. More emotional supports, more friends, that's for sure. That's the biggest thing. So I guess what I'll end with is, am I out of time? What's that? I can. So I guess what I'll end with is just going back to normalizing, that people are, all of us are different. All of us are different, and normalizing that there is no such thing as normal. That's a made up thing, and we should just throw that sucker out, because it's not doing any of us any good. Especially people like my son, who would, if you didn't know him, although people that do know him, and if you get to know him, you'll see that he's actually just he's got aspirations. He's got dreams. He wants to go to university. He wants to have friends. He wants to, produce music. He wants to produce games. He wants to create games. And allowing space for him to do that. And the only way that we can is getting rid of this idea of normal. Normal, according to who? Who's normal? That's really a colonial construct that we need to get rid of, because everybody's different. Looking throughout this room, I don't consider me the same as anyone in here. Even my mom, we share DNA. I don't look at my mom and think, oh wow, mom, you're my twin. Although we do look similar, but I don't. Everybody's different, is my point. Everybody's different, and we should just be allowing to give a safe place, and a sacred space. Hold a sacred space for that, because as Indigenous people, as Cree people, we're sacred beings. It's a part of the ideologies that we learn as we're growing up. And yeah, just be kind. That's all it is really kindness. And being kind to people, and being kind to everybody, considering other people's feelings, considering what keeps popping back into my mind is the staring. And I know that it really affects him. And it affects me too. I feel bad for him, because we should know better. We should know better as adults. Be kinder. Just say hi. He understands. And other people who have disabilities, these body disabilities, they understand. They just want to be a part of, your whatever you got going on. It doesn't matter what it is. They just want to be a part of it, and getting rid of this idea of normal. So, yeah. Am I? That's really all I have to say.
Hey, thank you for that incredible story. Courageous, strong mama. Congratulations. Come a long ways. Yep, that was quite the story. Courageous woman. So Neil is not here yet, so maybe we'll do some door prizes there. Boy suck, girl suck. You want to do that? Door prizes? All right. And we are live in Onion Lake here, so if you can hear me clearly, come and participate. Come and have lunch. It's coming here soon. It'll be here soon. And then We'll have supper, I think, this evening. Arlene, are we having supper this evening also? Yep. So you can see me, you can hear me. Astamik, come to the hall. Come and participate. We are going to be fed by, who is it here? Cahill Isku Catering. Mr. Ruby Batagan is going to be doing our meal here for our lunch and I think for supper also. And I would like to thank Nathan for coming to Onion Lake and doing our live feed here. Thank you, Nate. All right, so do we have, how did we get names in there? Did we give out tickets and all that? What? Whoever registered at the door. Did you register? Everybody register? Everybody got a ticket, a red ticket? Come and get one if you didn't get one yet. Hurry up. Okay. It's too shy. I'm not joking. All right. What do we have over there? What are we going to give away? An ultra fryer. Is that an air fryer? Yeah. That's what I need. Hey. And a couple of gift cards and a surprise bag. We're going to give away 4 prizes here. And the lunch should be here pretty quick here. They said they'd be here about 20 after, 25 after, so. All righty, what are we going to give away first, Boysuck? Lloyd Mall. Okay, Lloyd Mall gift card. The ticket is, I'll call out the last 3 numbers. 494. 494. You got to be here. Or is it me? It's me. 494, red ticket. If you came in this morning and you were here all morning, you're here. Okay, we're going to redraw. All right, last 3 tickets. 3 tickets. 3 numbers. Sorry, I'm hungry. 543. 543. Do we have a winner? Hey, over there. That lady in the corner over there. 543. I don't know, we can trust her. Let's see her ticket. She's pulled this off a few times, this one. Make sure it's for real. Okay, she's for real this time. Okay, next one will be for Tommy Guns. Is that a haircut? One of the best places in town to get a haircut. Tommy Guns. Okay, last 3 numbers. 518. 518. You only have girls. Is that only for? Yeah. Okay, let me see before I give it to you. Okay, all right. Congratulations. All right, they do girls' hair there too, I guess. All right, next one will be surprise. Surprise, it's in here. Okay. All right. 522. 522. 522. This guy? All right. I better check this guy too. A little dishonest, this guy. Let me see. Yeah. Are you blind as 555? You got it. Give me that. All right, there's some girly stuff in there. Perfumes and all that. Enjoy. All right, that is a really good price coming up here. It's an air fryer. I really do need that. Did my name go in there too? Okay, good. Yes, but I didn't get a ticket. Tonight? Okay. All right, a fryer. 527. 527. Oh, yeah. Hey, give it up. One of our main prizes. Okay, let me see. 527. You got her. Hey. Where are you from? Lloydminster. All right. Okay, congratulations to the 4 winners. So, okay, are these tickets going back in there? All right. Good news. The tickets we just drew will go back into the bag. All right. So, like I said, we're live. Bimit Sok, come and join us for our lunch here, and come and join us. Come and listen. A lot of good stuff happening today. Like I said, Kihiu Eskew Catering is serving the meal, but they're not here yet. So, I don't know. Is their food going to be cold? I don't know. And so this afternoon, right after our meal, we're going to have Leroy La Liberty talking about living through trauma and personal stories. And then Trevor Lloyd, he'll be here this afternoon from the Onion Lake Cree Nation Wellness Health Center, ICFS. I don't know where he works now. From over there somewhere. He'll be here this afternoon. And then we'll have supper, 5 till 6 this evening. And right after that, Sober Dance with Uncle Z Junction Band. They'll have fiddle, so it'll be good country music this afternoon. So I guess we'll sit around and wait for the meal here. But in between time, I'll play with some music. If you want to take a quick break, go have a fresh air outside, go ahead. So you'll know when the meal gets here. So he'll.
All right, if you guys are just joining, my name's Nathan Arias, IOPS owner. I'm the guy that brings you guys everything live, any Indigenous live event. So I'm going to see if I can get the man over here, Eugene, see if he wants to come chat. Oh, I think he is going to come chat here. And there we go. Right on there, brother. Put on that one there. Huh? Oh, can't even hear that. I have to shut it off. There we go. How's that? How's that sound?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear it? Everything's good?
I can go a little louder.
I don't know which one you're on. I think you're on 3. The
Yep,
hell that
Yep.
good?
There you go.
Right on. You're live here in Onion Lake Treaty 6 territory with the man, the plan. Go ahead, introduce yourself, even though they know who you are.
Well, my name is Eugene B. Lewis, aka Elvis of Bunny Lake.
I'll interrupt you. What's the Elvis thing? Because I walked it, I kind of know about it, but you gotta tell me what this Elvis thing is all about.
Well, as handsome as I am, I'm an
Yeah.
Elvis impersonator.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes.
So
Elvis in his 70s.
Is there something on online that somebody can go watch?
No, I never recorded myself. I don't like being recorded because they'll make money off of it, eh? So I kind of tell people no cameras, no cell phones.
That-
So no,
that- That's your gig.
that's my gig, sir.
Are you gonna be bringing out Elvis here this tonight or tomorrow?
Well, Elvis was out already. He was scheduled for now a week, but I had to replan and unfortunately reorganize. Yeah, Elvis won't be out this year.
Hopefully sooner than later we can see the Elvis. I would love to see it online. You know what? I think I seen a picture somewhere. I just can't remember.
Yeah.
I remember you did an Elvis.
Well, I've been doing Elvis. Don't sound right. Doing Elvis impersonations.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the past 20 years. I started out here when I was a gas jockey back in the 90s. I put on an Elvis suit and I was invited to open up hockey games and participate in round dances, just get the crowd motivated and all that. And I did maybe a couple of shows a year after that, continuous to, when was I Elvis? I was Elvis out here this summer.
Really? So you just did it? You just decided to be Elvis or what? How'd that go?
No, actually, I always liked Elvis. I loved Elvis.
That's
love
an
his,
obvious, man. That's you. If you
Oh,
become,
yeah. Yeah. No, I love Elvis. It just happened to be somebody suggested. I have an Elvis suit. We want to see Elvis pumping gas. This was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I put it on, and sure enough, I attracted a lot of business. I think we brought in $1 million that day because they wanted to see Elvis pumping gas. So yeah.
So you'd be like those ones that are always like twirling for pizza places like that, eh? You were like dancing on the side, or were you actually pumping gas as Elvis?
I was pumping gas like Elvis, singing like Elvis, and I look like Elvis. Back in the day.
I'm gonna interrupt. You know what? I just thought of a business idea. I would go out of my way, like 10, 20 blocks, if I had to go pump my gas. If there was like an Elvis themed gas station, or like characters, where everyone was like in character.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
I
that'd
don't
be
know why
awesome.
I just thought of that because people are always spitting pizza or something. But I mean, that would be cool.
Yeah.
To go to a gas station and actually, even kids nowadays, right? They're getting their gas pumped by like Thor or Spider-Man or Superman.
Yeah.
Future business idea.
Good plan.
Whoever sees that.
Good plan. Well, I might take your idea and do it myself.
That's a really good idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could actually do it if you'd have to bypass any legalities or something. But anyway, try it if you guys are gonna check it out, man. There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Dunyan Lake Family Services Parenting Conference.
Yes, a lot of good information right now. I encourage a lot of people to come out. Are we
Yeah.
live in Honey Lake right now?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. I encourage people to come out, parents, grandparents, kids that are not in school, bring them over
Mhm.
here and come listen. So it's a lot of good stuff happening here. And
There's the agenda.
yeah. All right. So yeah, I have the agenda here. So we just finished off with Robin Goforth. Good inspirational stories he had.
That was really good, man. Like I
Yeah.
paid attention to that one. That was really good. That story.
Yes, I thought I was having a bad day yesterday. I broke a nail and I thought the light was
Yeah.
up. But anyway,
That was a good. Story.
yeah, it
a
was.
good one.
It was. Yeah, and then this afternoon we'll have Leroy La Liberty talking about life through trauma and a personal story.
Is he from my reserve or is he from Meadow Lake?
Leroy La Liberty. I heard of him. I
Because I'm
don't-
related to the Liberties.
Oh, Green Lake.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know where this
Oh.
guy is from. I guess we'll get
when
to
he comes
see
here.
him and meet him.
Actually, you know what? I don't know if he. I'm pretty sure. Well, we'll find out, but I don't think he wants to be online. We'll see.
Okay.
Is
Well,
he an elder?
I am not sure. I know that's Trevor Lloyd over there. So
Well, we'll find out.
yeah, we'll
anyway.
find out later on. So and then Trevor Lloyd from Honey Lake Healing and Wellness will be here. He's our mental health therapist. I have missing teeth, so I don't pronounce my words too good.
Yeah.
I only have 4 teeth at the
Lot
top
of-
here, so damn,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then we have a band coming up this evening. It's a sober dance, Uncle's Junction Band, and they say they're pretty good. I've never heard them myself, but if they have fiddle, they're good.
Are they from Onion Lake?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I don't even know where they're from. So, yeah,
And they're playing the fiddle.
yeah, they're going to be playing the fiddle here. This now week here.
Mhm.
I was actually got invited to Canoe Lake to go do. They wanted an MC, and they wanted
And
Elvis to be MC.
Really?
Yeah, they're going to pay me $1 million, but
There you guys
know,
go.
if I pay taxes, whatever, I'll only end up with
You're treaty, man. You don't
Four-
pay tax.
475,000. I lose money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, yeah, that's true. I got invited to Canoe Lake, so
As Elvis.
as Elvis, but I had to reschedule that one too. So I told him I'll be next year. I can't do it this year. So
Going into Elvis, and I know this is a parenting conference, and we're all parents, right? You're a parent, I'm a parent, and speaking of characters that we got to come up with, growing up, I remember I grew up with a single mom in Red Pheasant, and your mom has to play, and I'm not saying everyone's like that. It seems nowadays the younger ones are getting it, like what it take, even if they got a co-parent, right? You know what I mean? Everyone's taking a role. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. The roles within a dynamic of parenting conference. There's some people that grew up with the Kukum and Mushroom, or and then that dynamic. It's good to be. What I'm getting at is that I've looked at other people that had the mom and dad family, perfect family, but it's your dynamic you grow up in, and I grew up in a healthy dynamic, even if it was just with my mom and stuff. So
yeah.
Anything to say about that?
Well,
I know I kind of jumped over. I went from Elvis to role, but basically what I was talking about is roles.
Yeah.
Roles in the parenting conference.
yeah,
Dynamic.
I have a couple of boys. I only have 2 boys,
Mhm.
biologically, and I have stepkids. When I was growing up, my mom would say, you won't really know what love is until you have grandchildren.
Mhm.
And and that's true. I love my kids, no doubt about it, but and then we have the grandkids that come along, and that's true. You seem to be more, the love comes out
I wonder
for your
why.
grandkids.
I heard that before.
Yeah.
And they get spoiled
And they
hardcore
get-
by the
yeah,
grandparents.
our kids get jealous of the grandkids. I know that.
But I wonder why that. I've heard that so many times. A lot of new cookums and mushums, they express how it's just a different. It's the same love, but it's
Yeah, it's a different love.
yeah,
Very unconditional.
Yeah.
Just love.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little conditional with your kids.
Wow, maybe it's because your kids put you through the ringer, and my daughter just hitting the teenage years, and then it's
Yeah.
already what they say sometimes when they hit teenagers, man, holy smokes, man, it's
Yeah,
tough to deal with. But you know what? I heard a good phrase. Sorry for you. I heard a good phrase. Nothing was. We all say we think we're going through something new with parenting or something. We got to remember the Earth's been around for I don't know how long, 4 billion years,
something like that. Yeah.
and parenting's always been there.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. What's happening to us? You can always go back and talk to somebody, an elders or somebody. There's a story of how that situation was dealt with. You know, if you're looking for help and whatnot.
Well, when you talk, when I think about parenting, parenting, you got to learn parenting.
Yeah.
It's not natural. It should be natural, but since residential schools and all that, things, and I'm pretty sure before residential schools we had structure,
Mhm.
within our First Nations, discipline. I don't know what they would have done for discipline back in the day. My parents would always say, they have a twig,
Mhm.
never actually hit anybody with it, but just showing that, that was discipline.
Yeah.
Scare the heck out of your kids, I guess, but
It's like kind of like F around and find out kind of thing, eh? Eh?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I'm pretty sure uh, our parenting back in the day was all positive, all good,
Yeah.
and then residential school came, and then messed it up. So our parents, like my parents, they went through residential school, and but to see them growing up, we had a kind of a rough life, strange,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of stuff happened back in the day, and but I'm pretty sure because they were product of residential school, the parenting part of it was a little messed up.
Mhm.
There was a little more, yeah, a physical discipline, I guess, a little more harsh verbal discipline, whatever, and the connection, I think, wasn't there for parents and kids, because of residential school,
Yeah.
to go on, in life, the kids carry that on, the parenting. So it gets a little messed up all the years, but I think it's coming back. We're relearning, parenting the right way, the connection, the love for our parents, our kids, our grandkids, and all that, for programs like ICFS, wellness, and all that, they're all bringing that back. It's good to
Mhm.
see. I work at the health center, and uh, I've noticed that. you know, uh, they're starting to reach these kids again that were products of residential school, and they're learning how to be parents again.
Mhm.
You know, get rid of all the trauma, and bring back love, hugging, all the good stuff.
That's true. And how would you say relearn in Cree?
Kita mix kita mo hoin.
Kita,
Kita mix kita mo hoin.
and that's like translated into relearn almost, or what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the way I say it. I'm sure somebody out there is correcting me. So
Uh,
hey, that's the way I'd say it. Yeah,
but
relearn.
that,
Yeah.
but that's kind of like what we. Yeah, you're right. Like we're relearning everything, and it's good that there is programs like this.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're gonna say, sure. We're gonna end the live here, and we'll come back to you guys.